man caught on camera being beaten by police dies, sparking public outcry. Judicial Tribunal investigating conduct of Judge Philip Tunoi resumes its hearing. And Nairobi County government begins demolishing condemned buildings in the city.
Good afternoon and thank you very much for joining us on KTN NEWSDESK on the 17th day of May 2016. My name is Akisa Wandera. Let's start off. The man who was caught on camera receiving extreme beating from 3 police officers has died. The man has been identified as Bernard Ngatia from Kiambu County, was a victim of excessive use of force during CORD-organized anti-IEBC demonstrations. The public is now calling for the prosecution of police officers caught on camera using extreme force against protesters during yesterday's demonstration by the CORD Coalition for the removal of commissioners of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. That certainly is a discussion that has taken center stage, not only on the social media, but on social settings, of course. Did the police use excessive force? Did they not? Joining us in studio now is a security expert, Delano Kilu, just to help us understand how far is it too far when it comes to the police and the protests. Many thanks for joining us. I will definitely start with that. How far is too far?
Well, first of all, condolences. This is a tragic loss of life.
Definitely.
And in this case, unjustified. It was not necessary to go beyond measure in terms of crowd control or situational control. In this case, it is definitely a case of excessive use of force, and unfortunately this tragic event then highlights challenges in and around security operations, as well as different layers of escalation within the security forces. I think that we are now at a stage as a country where we need to grow up. We need to mature as a society. We cannot be using or utilizing the same draconian methods that were used in 1975, and here we are in 2016. It means that we need to start adopting best practice as far as security is concerned in this nation. And one of the things that you will notice is that here we have a repeated pattern. Over the last couple of weeks that have preceded this incident, there was a mount-up, or what we call an escalation, of a repeated habit of continual engagement every single Monday.
When you talk about best practices, what should be the process for the police officers when it comes to crowd control, like what we saw yesterday?
First of all, highly trained police officers, anti-riot police officers, the best practice is create a perimeter. That perimeter should not be breached by either party, because historically, whether it is in the United States of America, whether it is in the Far East, whether it is in Europe, whenever they engage police officers who have been trained with civilians, there will be casualties. This is normal. So the best practice is that a clear perimeter must be established.
We did not see that yesterday.
We didn't see a clear perimeter. And again, it goes back into training and adoption of new standards. I think also in terms of crowd control, there must be clear warning, clear and adequate warning. Standards across the world is that you must hail any diversive crowd at least 3 times before you take any action against them. So again, it's important that the crowd is hailed and warned, so that anybody or any outcome following the 3 warnings, such as in the case of Ferguson, then becomes a very clear issue. We're able to actually see that there's a change in terms of the dynamics. One of the things that we've now seen is that in the case of yesterday, there was what we would call pandemonium. There was no clear control, there was no clear perimeter, there were no clear boundaries. It was impossible to identify the victim, and it was very, very difficult to identify which side, if any, it could have been just a person passing by.
If anything, if not for the uniforms, was there any difference between the officers and the and the protesters? If not for the uniforms,
I think there was a clear difference in terms of the equipment. There's a very clear difference.
Definitely.
However, what we're saying here is, especially from the security perspective, the time has now come for Kenya to mature. We must adopt best practice. We must adopt best standards. There must be very clear perimeters that are put in place. We cannot afford to lose any human life. Human life is precious, so we must establish clear perimeters. Again, there are very many different types of methodologies of crowd control. For example, kinetic impact projectiles, or rubber bullets as we call them, as well as sonic devices, and many different types of ways that we can actually sustain a perimeter between people who are protesting as well as the forces. Another thing that I'd just like to mention here is that it is also the responsibility of anybody who is leading a protest or a demonstration to inform the people that are demonstrating the manner of way that they should conduct themselves. You cannot just say, we are going to a certain particular place. I think, again, global best standards, leaders need to be able to adhere to best practice. That means I'm concerned not just for myself, but also for the people that I'm leading, which could result in trouble of any sort.
Now, Delano, this comes at a time when we have been talking about police reforms. We have the National Police Service Commission that came in after the Constitution, trying to bring in the police reforms. This incident we saw yesterday, does this mean that we've not made any headway as far as police reforms are concerned? Because such incidences are some of the things that were supposed to be rooted out of the police force.
I think we've made huge progress. And I don't think that by looking at this individual incident, we should then annul all the activities and actions that have taken place over the preceding years. What we do see is that this incident occurred. Perhaps without those police reforms, it could have been as many as 5 or 10 people that would have left this world. Now, fortunately, in security, what we always say is that even if you think that you're not answerable down here on earth, one day you'll be answerable to God. So conduct yourself in such a manner as accountable. You cannot just go and do anything that you want because you know you have now put on a uniform. There is a code of conduct. It's very clear. There are clear laws. And most of all, the police force was formed to protect the citizen, not to destroy the citizen.
Yes.
So this should be at the forefront of any person who is carrying security as their core principle and as their ethos in terms of best practice. What we do see is that there is no use of technology. We see there is no automation. We see that there has been a challenge because we're using very manual methodologies to be able to try to control crowds. What we should see is we should see a mobile vehicle that captures in high definition every single person who is at the point of incident. We should be able to, like in the UK, for example, they used to have a huge problem with hooliganism. And it was very common, and people used to die all the time, until they decided they will root out those elements, because it's not absolutely everybody that causes pandemonium. People take advantage, especially of repeat efforts like this particular protest, where you say every single Monday will be there, and put it on their calendar. That becomes their day job. So in the case of the UK, what they did is they identified the core leaders of anarchy and then posted them across Europe and said, if you see these guys, these are the troublemakers. We should be able to see that both from a civilian perspective as well as from a police perspective. Use of technology is absolutely important. And unless we adopt new standards and implement them immediately, you know, we are at risk of seeing more and more of this, and we cannot afford this.
Going forward, what should we, sins should we expect to see as far as the police officers are concerned in future protests? We're heading into an electioneering period. What are the sins we are expecting?
I think we're going to see, one, quite a number more police officers on the ground, boots on the ground. I think we're going to begin to see the adoption of more equipment and machinery. Right now we've seen just a little. I think it's going to be very much like the Occupy Wall Street protest that was stopped by the LAPD, where outside of City Hall, they actually killed that whole process by deploying 1,400 police officers. So we're likely to start seeing very similar scenes over here, because at the end of the day, it's a nation of 42 million people. You know, you're going to be able to disrupt business, ordinary day-to-day business, for only a particular amount of time before, at the end of the day, the rubber meets the road. And if you put a force against a legal and lawful force, then the lawful force will make its strength known. And what we're asking for is, can this be done with a modicum of respect for human life and limb? Can this be done? Can you look at that person who you're treating as opposed to your ideologies as a human being at the end of the day? Would you be able to have a peaceful demonstration and protest and still be able to have tea with that person at 5 o'clock at the end of the day?
All right.
If you're able to do that, then definitely we're making progress. If not, there's a challenge.
Finally, before I let you go, I understand we don't have too much time, but this is a question that I've seen being asked on the social media. When, of course, there's a problem with a crowd and there's the police officer who is being provoked, how well would he handle, or is he expected to handle such a situation? Because there's arguments that he might have been provoked. How well should that particular police officer should that particular police officer have acted in that particular situation?
What we all forget at the end of the day is that the police officer is a human being. When provoked, he's going to have emotions beyond his training. Right. But at the end of the day, we still expect the police officer to fall back on his training and not on his emotions. Unfortunately, in this particular case, was not the case, but ideally, there should be a perimeter. Nobody should be within distance of being able to provoke any officer. So that means clear perimeters need to be laid. There needs to be clear boundaries, whether you put up plastic barriers and say do not come beyond this point. There has to be very clear demarcations of the area that people should not protest beyond. If that occurs, then, you know, in this case, we're seeing people walking up to the fence of Anniversary Towers and shaking the metal fence. That cannot be tolerated. There must be a very clear perimeter. So I think our concern mainly from the security community is that if this is not held in check, it will result in worse incidents in the future. And so we must, as leaders from all sides, come condemn this particular type of action and activity, but also make the process to change and to grow up and to mature as a nation and to adopt the best practices.
All right. Thank you very much for coming in. That was security expert Delano Kilu just talking to us about the sins, unfortunate sins witnessed yesterday at the CBD as the anti-IEBC protests were ongoing. We understand the man in green who was seen being bitten by police has succumbed to the injuries. But the Law Society of Kenya is also weighing in on the police brutality. The LSK chairperson says the act is nothing less than a horrendous demonstration of a police force developed to manage lawful protests with a training manual that certainly predates the 2010 Constitution and has worrying similarity to pre-independence tactics. The chairman goes further to say that the police force must now urgently be trained on how to facilitate the citizens' peaceable and unarmed exercise on Article 37 rights, no matter how raucous, while respecting their inherent dignity and the right to have the same respected and protected, and their rights to freedom and security of person, which is the Article 29. He added that this means efficiently and safely extracting from lawful protests those whose behavior falls outside Article 37 in a manner that respects even their unlimited right to freedom from torture and cruel, inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment. All right, and moving on, civil society organizations have called for thorough investigations in the several incidents of brutality attributed to the police. They have pointed out yesterday's beatings of demonstrators and want the involved policemen brought to book. Representatives of the civil societies spoke during the launch of the 101 booklet aimed at enhancing police service delivery. The book has also been launched in Uganda and Tanzania.
It is undignified, it is acceptable. It shows how low we are, we can get to a country in terms of the way we manage the security matters.
Yes. And maybe what does the law say about protesting and peaceful demonstration and actions from the police?
I mean, the law is very clear in terms of providing space for citizens to picket, for citizens to demonstrate peacefully and get on to raise valid concerns. And the same law provides police with space to protect the citizens during the times that they are picketing, during the times that they are demonstrating. And you remember, police, as they pursue the security, they need to do that in compliance with the rule of law, with utmost respect to human rights and the Constitution.
What we have seen is that police brutality has increased to some extent. For example, when you look at the demonstrations in town about how they are treating members of civil society and members of opposition who are doing demonstrations against IEBC, there are elements of brutality, particularly what happened yesterday, May 16th, 2016, and we saw a lot of beating, which is actually violating the law that the police, that guides police work, violates the Constitution. In terms of the law, it's very clear that the police conditions onto the use of force should be restricted to when people are offering resistance. But some of the images which we saw yesterday, some of the people are not actually resisting.
Now, the chairperson of the National Assembly's Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, Samuel Chepkonga, was this morning forced to eject IEBC commissioners out of Parliament's committee sittings after members differed on whether to discuss the PAC reports which indicted the commission. Chepkonga said his move was to allow members hold closed-door discussions on how to resolve the issue.
Honorable Outa, you cannot exchange with the chair. You are not a member of this committee, you are just a friend. So you cannot shout at me as a friend. You know, we have a way we normally handle our matters. So you cannot exchange with me. In fact, you know, it is very easy for me to ask you, please leave the committee because you do not belong here.
You can do that because you have the authority, but I'm not a stranger in the house.
No, please
the
don't
standing
shout.
orders allows me to be a friend of the committee.
And to attend any committee.
And attend any committee.
But you are not friendly now.
Because you are provoking me. I can't sit with these guys who are killing Kenyans.
I mean, surely. if my English is right, if my English is right, you have become an enemy of the committee. So, Honorable Vaya.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, I want to submit that I want to submit on a point of order that Mr. Chairman, this matter is as the one side of the committee is saying, it is life and in the country. And Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, even as we are speaking, this matter is also being covered. We are speaking, therefore, to the country. So Mr. Chairman, last week we actually made a decision we are going to meet with IEBC. And the country is looking to us as leaders to facilitate dialogue and establish the way, what is going to be the way forward as far as dealing with matters to do with the electoral systems are concerned. And Mr. Chairman, the agenda this committee has has actually been agreed and is expected to help this committee address the issues at hand. And they are really grave issues. So, Mr. Chairman, I would seek to urge you that the committee proceeds by way of the procedure of its agenda.
Well, the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee there disagreeing on whether to discuss the Public Accounts Committee report or the police brutality, but we understand the issue was resolved and IEBC Chairman Issa Hassan has been allowed to present his statement or his report in front of or before the Justice Legal Affairs Committee. Let's listen in to the IEBC Chairman.
Taking the time of the park because that was not their mandate. They hijacked and usurped the committee of JLAC's mandate. And however, Mr. Chairman, this is not a very novel recommendation because the Constitution of Kenya says that commissions can comprise of not less than 3 and not more than 9. And they can be part-time or full-time. So actually, this recommendation is simply repeating the Constitution. And it's up to this now of JLAC to then go ahead and amend the IBC Act to see how many commissioners can be 3, 5, or 7, or 9, or part-time or full-time. We don't have any problem with that. And again, this is another way I think this committee is a better place to deal with than PAC. The other recommendation was to ensure a lean and efficient secretariat and to reduce the number of directorates. Again, Chairman, they were dealing with they were now looking into our directorates, how many they are, the regional staff, the consul staff. This is a matter which, again, if it is felt necessary, this committee could have dealt with. It was not in the Auditor General's report. And we feel that, again, the Commission, as currently designed, has worked very well. In fact, it is copied now by other commissions who are trying to improve their own commissions. They feel our secretariat to be very strong.
All right, that there is a chairman of the IEBC, Isaac Hassan, out to clear his name after a report by the Public Accounts Committee in the National Assembly indicted him. All right, and now head over back to Parliament, where IEBC chairman Isaac Hassan is out to clear his name in front of or before the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee on the Public Accounts Committee report on the Commission. Let's listen in.
Of their removal. 249(2)(a) says that they are only subject to the Constitution and the law. And 249(2)(b) emphasizes their independence and that they are not subject to direction or instructions by anybody. So for me, I think what we need to do is to get away from the PAC report now, try to look at issues that will strengthen this commission and not allow us to even venture into situations where they need to go or not for political expedience. Until and unless we do have a report or a petition before us, then I think we need not discuss anything beyond our regular mandate of oversight and trying to strengthen them and looking forward to the next general election. Because as it is now, they are still the ones who are in office and we expect them to carry out the next general election. In fact, even an attempt to resign is abdication of duty as far as we are concerned at this particular point in time.
Thanks, Honorable Eganj. Honorable Kajuju.
Chair, I believe that it was right for this commission to come before us and at least give us a summary of their side in as far as the PAC report was concerned. Because as we speak, Chair, the PAC report has not been debated in the House. It is pending. And just because the committee made some decisions, it is up to us as now the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee that directly oversights IEBC to be able to guide the House in as far as that report is concerned. So I don't think, Chair, anyone should then tell us that what they have told us would be a wrong way of doing things. I think we've done it in the right way, and it was right for us now to get an insight of what IEBC feels as a response to what PAC has said. And I believe it will be upon this committee then to give the House the right direction. Now we'll have the material and be able to tell the House this was right, this was wrong, or this was overstepping the mandate in as far as PAC was concerned. So we are on the right track, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kajuju. Then let's proceed, I think, with those remarks. You know, it is very important for us to be aware as the departmental committee of issues that touch on IEBC. When such weighty issues will be discussed on the floor of the House, we should be able, as rightly spoken to by Honorable Kajuju, we should be able to be in a position, not only position, but we should be competent also to tell the House what we think as the departmental committee that is charged with the responsibility of oversighting IEBC, think about the issues that have been raised. That is within our mandate and you cannot take it away. So I'd like to thank members. I'd like us to move fairly quickly to the next two items. We will not be able to deal with the details with regard to the budget for 2016-2017, but we'd like to hear you on the question of the status of the referendum law review. Where are we? Because we've been making attempts to conduct a referendum with very scattered provisions of the law governing its conduct, and we just wanted to know what's the position and where are we, and when are you going to be ready to make a presentation to this committee so that we can finalize this issue? Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I want to beg your indulgence to allow me to give the Director of Legal Affairs the floor to explain that point.
Proceed.
Proceed, Mr. Rode.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have already held consultations with the Kenya Law Reform Commission and the Attorney General's chambers. We have a draft in place, Mr. Chairman, and I believe we have circulated the draft. The draft seeks to address the manner in which a referendum is initiated to amend the Constitution. It also seeks to address initiation of other...
All right, that there is Chairman of the IEBC, Isaac Hassan, appearing before the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee of the National Assembly. And we will definitely be continuing with that coverage on KTN News. But let's now close on KTN Home. Many thanks for joining us. We continue on KTN News with that coverage. My name is Akisa Wandera. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.